Hello, I'm the Dark Master, and welcome back to the Kirby Right Back at Your Retrospective. In today's installment of the Retrospective, we shall be covering episode 84, Mummy's Madness, or as it's called in the Japanese original, Curio's Hidden Treasure. Alright, so right off the bat, the episode was originally released in Japan on May 31st, 2003, as the 84th episode. Meanwhile, the English dub, done by the infamous company 4Kids, was released in North America on December 11th, 2004, also as the 84th episode. The name suggests this episode shall be related to a certain enemy, but that is something we'll talk about later in a bit. Let us now, without further ado, start the review proper with a coverage of the episode's story. The episode begins with Kirby sleeping in his tree as we pan over his home. The wretched, horrible bird's waste of space, Takori, awakens him and demands that he opens his peepers and tells him to investigate these strange sounds that are emanating from the nearby woods, because he's too lazy to do so himself. Kirby tries. He hesitates for a bit before Takori impatiently and cruelly tells him to hurry it up. Goodness, it's almost like he's a baby. Kirby enters the misty area and approaches the sound, which, peering towards a cliff, Kirby investigates and sees Curio excavating a mysterious ancient urn. Hearing Kirby Puyo, Professor Curio, with possessed, glowing eyes, tells him to leave, and Kirby does so, absolutely horrified. A green light shimmers from the urn as Curio chuckles maniacally as we then cut to the jazzy intro. After the jazzy intro, we then cut to the next day to see Kirby sleeping as Tuff tells him not to sleep the day away as they need a goalie. Curio, still seemingly possessed due to the black eyes, is carrying the urn from earlier in a cart. Clearly annoyed, Spikehead and Iroh attempt to kick the ball, only to kick Kirby once again, much to Tuff's chagrin, as Kirby then hits Curio in the head. Tuff apologizes and offers to help him by pushing the cart, but Professor Curio yells at him to go away as it's none of his business. Tuff wonders what that was about as he and the others watch Curio leave. We cut to that night at Tuff's family dinner as Tiff asks why he'd act so mean, and Tuff says that he must be hiding something he dug up. His father assumes he's implying that Curio is up to some shenanigans, and Tiff calls her brother out for spreading such rumors about someone. Tuff counters by saying he likely found treasure. His mother tries to stop this as Tiff chastises him for suggesting that Curio cares more about treasure as opposed to knowledge. Tuff is unconvinced while Tiff looks depressed. We cut to Curio's museum where we see in the basement an altar with a Cappy skull and a set of ancient books as we come to the first change between versions. In the Japanese original, these books and a stone tablet have an ancient Cappy writing language on them, which enhances how old they are appearing to be. 4Kids, for reasons unknown, airbrushed these texts out, which frankly only hurts the scene, and I don't really understand why it would be done. It seemingly was done for no reason. Curio laughs as the monster of the week rises from the vase. Since it's introduced, let's talk about it now. This is a mummy, a shockingly old enemy dating back to the original Kirby's Dreamland, which I've reviewed before if you'd like to learn more. In-game, they're basically kind of a bit more creepy scarfy, and honestly, they don't really do much outside of not being able to be inhaled, though in Kirby's Dreamland 2, they could phase through walls, but honestly, the anime makes it even more disturbing thanks to the huge tooth-filled maw. that's just disturbing. And unlike in the games where it just sort of floats around towards Kirby, it can now shoot lightning from its eyes and hypnotize others. Just wow. We also see the voice change between versions. While no human is credited, and I don't really think anyone really did any real voice acting for it, the Japanese one gives him a nasally, undead, raspy ghoul voice with just moans, while the English dub gave it a more panther/lion sound with roars. But honestly, both versions are great and make him sound like a horrifying monster. Honestly, I have to say, not only this is a good implementation of it in with the game, which is, always neat to see, but it's just a great foe overall. Really scary despite the somewhat chibi design. Mumbie flies out into the window and enters into the town looking for its target, Kirby. He goes into the restaurant of Kawasaki, who thinks it is a late arriving customer, only to be scared away by its growl. We then see reused footage of Didi in a clown suit attack an escort goon in a dress. Gus turns this off, and funnily enough, in the exchange between versions, Gus, the gas station owner, says he's seen that same skit 204 times already, which is a nice bit of self-awareness that helps to mask a reuse of footage. 4K sadly removed that level of self-awareness, making the footage reuse just seem lazier, and he just calls them stink in terms of their ability to act. He sees a glowing eye peering through the window and goes to look over at it, clearly very idiotic, and is scared by it. What did he expect to happen, I would say? But we then cut to the next scene where we see the next change between versions. In the Japanese original, we see Mabel having a night terror as she has an ominous premonition. She dismisses it as a bad dream, but upon seeing the Mumbie in the window, she screams in fear. For some reason, the English dub removed this, and I don't really see a reason why, outside of maybe there were some issues with the airing time slot leading to time constraints. We see the Mumbie fly through town, which we cut to in the English dub, looking for Kirby, scaring the bejesus out of everyone. We cut to Kirby's home as it breaks through the window, where it awakens to Cory and bites Kirby. The baby is upset and runs around, knocking it off. It chases him around the room. Cory, in a rare case of seeming concern, opens the door, which Kirby flees through, with the Mumbie chasing close behind. Cory then reveals his true intentions as he maliciously says that he can finally sleep now. Kirby flees, dodging various lunges from the Mumbie through the forest. Eventually, the monster gets sick of it and shoots lightning from his eyes, which blasts Kirby into a tree. Kirby runs from further blasts, but he is cornered on a ledge near Kaboo. Mumbie floats down, looking for Kirby, who seemed to have lost him for a moment, only to find him hiding near Kaboo. He blasts him again, leaving him quite damaged, and eventually grabs Kirby in his jaw and drags him into the air to finish him off. But as the sun rises, much like a vampire, it flees, dropping Kirby, who floats to the ground. Kaboo speaks up and warns Kirby that the monster won't stop attacking him and that he must be careful. You have to wonder why he didn't speak out earlier while Kirby was being attacked, but regardless, we see the Mumbie return to the vase/urn while Curio looks terrified. Tiff is informed by Cory of the event. She asks if he's okay, and Cory unhelpfully says that Kirby was fine when he went to sleep. Tiff goes to find Kirby, who managed to wander over there before collapsing. Cory makes a foul remark at this, and Tiff and Tuff look at him annoyed, as he rightfully feels ashamed for it. And Kirby is, very sleepy. We cut back to town where the townsfolk are discussing the events of last night. Kawasaki described it as horrible, and Gus compares its yellow eyes to headlights. Mabel alludes to an attack that, due to the scene removal I discussed, is not seen in the English dub, so it sort of comes off as a plot hole. Samo, the bartender, calls Mumbie a scoundrel. Bookums does some actual police work and asks for a description. Kawasaki and Gus describe the beast as round and covered in bandages, which scares the campy kids. Curio is there, sweating like he's very suspicious, and Tuff asks if he saw a monster. Bookums then asks him if he knows anything, as Professor Curio hurries away, clearly feeling guilt over something. We see Dee and Escargoon spying on them. The king brags that Curio is doing just what they wanted, as Escargoon chuckles that the plan is going as planned. The camera pans over to the museum as Tough, Iroh, and Spike Kid approach it. They try to enter through the front door, but it's locked, and they end up entering it through the very window that the mummy left out of. Hopefully, the broken glass doesn't hurt them as they search the dark place. Tough picks up a book, and they hear a sound and investigate an even darker and more creepy basement. After a bit of understandable hesitation, they look around and, after peeking past a corner, enter a secret tunnel. They find a glowing door and see Curio mixing up a mysterious broth, which horrifies them as we fade to the commercial break. We cut to Kirby's home as we return to the show, and Tokori the Rotten Bird says that he pathetically tried to wake Kirby up, but to no avail, as Tiff feels sad for Kirby, pointing out how he was chased all night and is likely exhausted, and that they gotta stop this monster. Tuff shows up and explains that Curio's up to something. Tiff is skeptical, but changes her tone as she reads the book after being convinced by her brother who stole it. She does so as we come to the next few changes between versions. In the Japanese original, it says that the Mumbie is a monster that will bring the finder who gets it good fortune. The English dub alters this to the Mumbie actually helping one find ancient hidden treasures due to it being found underground. Which, in this case, I have to say the English dub I think is better here, as it makes more sense that Curio, a professor, would excavate it as he values artifacts over luck. Also, there is a visual change which is seen in the book, as in the Japanese original there is an ancient text as seen on the cover. The English dub changes it to line. Just another really odd instance of censorship that doesn't seem entirely justified at all in any way. Tiff expresses her shock as the wretched Decorian Tough confirm the monster is legit in the book. She wonders how he could be so greedy, but her brother points out how it's almost dark and they gotta hurry to stop it. Takori cowardly offers to watch after Kirby as he sleeps. We cut to Curio's basement as Tiff and Tuff watch Curio stir this mysterious broth. Tiff sees the mummy in the urn as Curio goes to pour the soup into it. Tiff calls him out, telling him to stop. The two siblings confront him. Tuff points out that the monster, as Curio tells him to keep it down. Tiff accuses him of working for Deity to destroy Kirby. Curio tries to explain himself, saying that he'll explain later and that he can't really explain right now. Tuff, however, rushes up to him, thinking that he will stop him from hurting Kirby, and knocks the pedestal over, desperate to save Kirby, but it awakens the Mumbie instead, and it flies out to attack Kirby once again. Tiff and the others watch on as Curio explains that he opened the seal by accident while excavating the vase, and Tuff asks why he's doing this if the book says that it finds treasure. Meta Knight, however, shows up and explains that the book is a lie. He explains that it is a forgery made by Deity, and this introduces two problems that others have pointed out that I think are worth talking about for a bit. First is how Deity's ability to write a fake book contradicts past episodes, like episode 38, A Novel Approach, or more relevantly, episode 83, Teacher's Threat, which shows him as illiterate, not even able to write his own initials, calling into question how he was able to do this and make a book that was sufficient in quality to trick Professor Curio. While this could be seen as a large continuity error, it could easily be explained by the episodic nature of the show. How he could have, easily learned it between episodes, since we don't really know how much time passes between these, episodes. Or he could have just had Escargoon forge it for him. So yeah, it's not that big of a deal. A bigger issue is how exactly Meta Knight knows this happened in the first place. Did he overhear it? Did he see D&D place the book somewhere? It's just a weak point of an overall solid episode story, and I wish they had spent a little time explaining it. He then explains that mummies were scattered amongst planets across the galaxy and once uncovered are awakened and non-stop hunt Star Warriors. Curio explains that he only realized the forgery after the monster awoke for the first time, and he blames himself for being so stupid. Tiff asks what the brew was for, and Curio explains it was an ancient formula that would have sealed the Mumbie away. Tiff and Tuff feel sorry for preventing this, but Meta Knight stops this pity party, pointing out how Kirby is in danger. The camera cuts back to Kirby's house, and Mumbie bites down on Kirby. Takori frugally shows him the door as Kirby flees into the night, bumping into a tree that knocks Mumbie loose. Tiff and the others show up, only to see Mumbie chase Kirby into a watermelon patch. Antics happen as it briefly loses Kirby, only for the Pink Puffball's greed to expose him, and the creature resumes attacking Kirby, blasting him. The others chase after the pair, who run through the village. The townsfolk groggily emerge, as Gus says that he won't be sleeping tonight. Bookums asks why the fight must be so loud, as the mayor worries for Kirby's safety. They flee when Kirby and the mummy approach, though. It corners Kirby. Tiff and Meta Knight encourage him to fight, and he steps up to do something, but Mumbie's hypnotic stare causes him to become sleepy. Tiff is confused as Meta Knight explains this power to her. It then starts beating up Kirby. Tiff tells him to stay and make an effort to fight back, as then Kirby tries to suck up Mumbie, and in comparison to the stupidity seen in episode 56, well, Scarfy is somehow able to ignore the ability to be inhaled for no reason. He actually does end up getting swallowed by Kirby. Sure, it's not game accurate, but in the context of an anime, I think it makes a lot more sense for something like that to be able to be inhaled. It, of course, gives no ability, causing him to spit it out. Tiff is confused as Kirby inhales it again to the same effect, getting no copy ability. Tuff wonders why it's not working as DD shows up and mocks Kirby. As DD mocks him, Mummy then starts beating Kirby up to the point of exhaustion. DD, however, then makes a brash decision to end Kirby by wrapping a bomb in mummy paper. In what is last changed between versions, in the Japanese original, he thinks that he can trick Kirby with it, as the king says no such thing in the English dub. It just kind of comes off as weird, but honestly, both versions do a good job highlighting D&D's stupidity. In the end, Kirby sucks it up to become Bomb Kirby. Now, I've discussed this copy ability extensively in 3 previous episode reviews, only one of which is dealing with some copyright problems that will be fixed relatively soon, hopefully. Those being episode 51, Kirby Takes the Cake, episode 57, A Half-Baked Battle, and episode 78, Right Hand Robot, all of which I've reviewed before, so check those out if you'd like to learn more, but to keep it brief and avoid repetition, I think Bomb Kirby made the transition to the anime well enough. Tiff and Tuff cheer him on as Tiff calls upon the Warp Star. Dee Dee is mortified as Escargoon mocks his stupidity that will undermine his own plan. Kirby tosses bombs, which Mumbie dodges and shoots lasers. There is a very engaging flight chase, and even Mummy struggles, almost getting hit, but then bites Kirby, lifting him into the air off the Warp Star. But the Warp Star returns and lifts both Mummy and Kirby into the atmosphere, which exposes him to the sun. It tries fruitlessly to escape, but Kirby holds it in place, ironically using its own bite against him, and the sun slowly and painfully kills it, turning Mummy to dust. Dedede cries as Escargoon points out that he only has himself to blame, as Tiff and Tuff cheer Kirby on. Meta Knight notes that while there are many mummies across the universe, but at least this planet is safe as its one has been destroyed, and Curio is happy. Tough and Tiff apologize for not believing Curio and preventing him from sealing the monster back up, but Curio says it's really his fault due to doing sloppy research and asks if Kirby will be okay. Tough says that, yeah, he will. He just needs rest, as Tiff wishes Kirby to sleep well, and the episode ends with Kirby sleeping. Now that we've discussed the story, let us discuss the positives, negatives, and my final thoughts. Right off the bat, I have to say I thought the story was excellent. It really was engaging and surprisingly dark in some ways. Curio's role was well intentioned, and an archaeologist being fooled by lies is an interesting concept, as well as, teaching us the lesson of always doing one's research. I personally always do my research, despite what some pedantic losers may say. I definitely do my best to do so, but everyone gets fooled at some point in their lives, and this honestly makes Curio seem a lot more human. The Mumbie was a great, really horrifying enemy that stands out with the bonus of being an actual enemy from the game series, which, might seem like faint praise, but I still think it's neat to see it, and it was implemented very well into the overall story. Bomb was cool to see again, and I like how Kirby, while he did get a copy ability, instead relied on brains as opposed to the copy ability itself to beat the monster of the week, taking advantage of the ability that, we see the Mumbie is able to bite real hard. He manages to hold it in place in order to defeat it. And admittedly, compared to a lot of the other episodes I've discussed recently, there weren't a lot of changes, but there were a few, and that's where we enter into, sadly, a few of the negatives that I have for this episode. One is the removal of the Mabel scene, which I don't understand why they removed it. It seemed unnecessary to remove and didn't really make the episode better, and if anything, it weakened the mummy's presence. More unforgivable is the censorship of the text on the books, which just comes off as completely random and weakens the scene. I don't know why they did that. Maybe it was like fears of occultism, but even when this episode aired, that would have been a pretty big stretch. Other minor flaws I've seen other people note is the DD illiteracy inconsistency here. But honestly, I don't really think that hurts the episode. I mean, sure, it's a little inconsistent with some past episodes, but again, there are reasonable explanations. Honestly, the biggest issue with that scene is how Meta Knight knew Dee Dee made the forgery in the first place, which I went into detail before. Speaking of Meta Knight, I thought his inclusion, while nice, didn't feel properly fleshed out. But overall, this is a solid episode, and I think that you should definitely watch it if you're binging the series, as it's definitely one of the better episodes in the anime. I don't know where I would rank it, but it's really good. Anyway, I'm the Dark Master, and if you liked the video, you liked it, but if you loved it, consider subscribing and sharing it around. It really does help out smaller YouTube channels like myself. I know I used to not really talk about that in my older videos, but I didn't realize how much sharing it out really helps, and I want to thank everyone who did that before I, expressly told people to do so. So, thanks you all, and join me next time on the Kirby Right Back at Ya Retrospective. Take care and have a wonderful day.